What phase in the music journey are you in? How far do you think you are from where you want to be? Is it months? Is it years? Is it decades? Well, I'm in a very lucky position where I have a school of over 800 producers, and we've been around for over 12 years. So we can look and analyze, and we can say, all right, on average, this phase comes first, and then this phase takes this much time. And then on average, if you do X, Y, and Z, this phase happens. I keep saying this word average, on average, because, and I want to say this now at the beginning, everyone's path is unique. Will it take you exactly 3 years and 62 days to get to this phase? I have no idea. These are just average amounts of time. We'll also go through what you typically have to do to jump to that next phase. But the point of this is to give you a bit of a roadmap of where you're at and where you're heading. First off, if you don't know, I'm Justin. I run Cosmic Academy. We're an artist development school, and like I said, we've been around now for over 12 years. We have over 800 producers, and they're doing incredible things, getting incredible results. They sign to the biggest labels like Defected and Toolroom, Armada, Anjuna, Monstercat. They play the biggest shows. We have 4 students this year playing EDC Las Vegas. We have 3 students playing Tomorrowland. Multiple students played Ultra this year. And I can confidently say we've had students get to all of these phases, maybe not the last one, but go from 1, 2, 3, 4. Because that 5th phase, that's really fucking hard. But I've worked with some of the artists in that top phase, so we'll still explore it. So I'm going to talk about how long it's going to take on average, how much music you'll be finishing and signing on average, and how much marketing, branding, social media you'll be doing on average. So let's go through the 5 phases. Phase number 1 is the beginning learner phase. This phase, and again, it's on average, yours might be different, but this lasts for about the first 1 to 3 years. You're not getting records signed yet, and you might not be getting any offers to play your own shows. You're just at the start of the journey. You have the DAW, and you're learning about all the different fundamentals of the production process. You probably haven't even launched your brand yet or thought about the marketing. Most of your time is spent learning, studying, and trying to make the music. This is a very exciting phase. It's all brand new. The world is your oyster. You haven't had to pitch or get rejected. You haven't really had those roadblocks yet. And maybe you did pitch a label kind of as a joke, but you know deep down that you weren't that serious about it. So in terms of the metrics, maybe you haven't even finished a record, so you definitely haven't signed it. Deep down, you know your stuff probably isn't that great, and it takes you a very long time to get things going, and you probably have very few fans, or maybe you haven't even launched your brand yet. But as you keep learning and keep trying and keep getting better, then you get to a point where maybe your stuff is starting to get ready to be put out there or even signed. And that brings us to phase 2. Phase 2 is your first signings and the opening phase. You might be an opening performer. This, on average, takes around 3 to 5 years. And look, we've had students get here in 1 year, and we've had students get here in 4 years. This is when your music is up to par to be signed on some of the smaller labels. You're not going to be getting signed on Spinnin or Defected or Monstercat, but you're good enough to get on some smaller labels, which also means you've already launched your brand. So you've started to make some content and you're doing some marketing. You know, you've truly committed yourself now publicly to calling yourself an active producer. And because you've started the marketing, the branding, maybe now with some signed records, you are starting to get some shows. But these are not big festivals, and you're definitely not headlining. These are maybe small gigs at your local venue, or maybe you might be opening up for an artist who's touring through your city. This phase can actually be very frustrating for a lot of my students. Some folks get stuck in this phase for a very, very long time. You know, they can sign to some small labels, they can get some small shows, but all they want is jump to the next phase. The only way to do that is your skills, your abilities, your brand, your network, everything has to be elevated. Some people get complacent at this stage. When they come to me, they're like, wow, Justin, I got my first signing. Wow, Justin, I got my first Beatport Top 100. And that's incredible. Or on the gig side, you know, now that you get to play some shows, that might be enough for you. You've opened for some big names. That feels good. But you might get stuck there and not improve. Let's talk about the metrics of this phase. So at this point, it's still probably taking you a while to finish consistent signable music. So you might only sign 1, 2, 3 tracks a year. And then in terms of your marketing, maybe you have a couple of 100 followers and fans on the Instagram, on the TikTok, on the Spotify. Like I said, it's very easy to get stuck here because you are seeing some result. It is satisfying you in some small way, and you can kind of coast here. easier. But is it your ultimate goal? I doubt it. Now, in order to jump to the next level, it's going to take another massive effort of growth. But if you're willing to focus and bust your ass, then that gets you to phase 3. And that's where a lot of the fun begins. By the way, if you need help at any of these phases, we have an entire program dedicated to helping artists get ahead. I'll leave a link below in the comments if you want to apply to our program. So let's talk about phase 3. At phase 3, you're getting consistent signings and you're probably a touring artist. On average, this is probably 5 to 8 years of consistent work. I'm talking grinding for that many years. Not like, oh, I did this for 2 years, I took a 4-year break, I've been doing this for 6. No, I'm talking consistent those years. And sometimes it takes even longer to get to phase 3. But it's at phase 3 where you are signing to some of those bigger labels. Some labels might be the labels that your favorite artists run, and you're getting enough done on the marketing and the branding side that you're playing shows now outside of your local town. So you're doing almost like little tours here and there, 2-3 shows outside of your city. We have quite a lot of artists at this level. They're signing really cool labels like Confession or Subsidia, Revealed, Drumcode, Toolroom, and those are great labels, but they're not the major labels. Yet these labels at this level, they do have a lot of pull, and they can offer you quite a bit. You'll get to play some festivals every single year, but at this phase, probably not the main stage, but maybe some cooler side stages. In terms of the metrics, you probably have 10,000 or more followers and fans on most platforms. You have probably 50 to 100,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, and you're finishing music every week and signing music to labels every month that comes out. And at this point, you're known in your genre. Are you a household name? Probably not, but people around you are asking for collabs. This is also where you can start making a full-time living with your music. And it isn't like huge money, but it's enough to pay the bills. Like I said, we have a lot of students at this phase right now, and it's a great phase to be in. I will say though, they do continue to face similar problems as prior phases. You still get rejected at this phase. You're still not at the top of the bill or the top of the festival at this phase. But at this phase, you might get your first manager or your first agent to help out, but you're still fighting for your place. If you want to jump to the next phase, again, you need to grow and grind, because phase 4 is when crazy shit starts to happen. Phase 4, you're getting major record deals, you're headlining shows, and now you're making some big money. This is like 10 plus years in. Sure, we can talk about Martin Garrix. He had a hit when he was like 17, 18, and a year later, he's playing the main stage of Ultra. Assume that is not you. Most people, this takes over 10 years. This is when you're signing huge deals to big labels. I'm not just talking about Spinnin and Armada and Monstercat. You can pretty much get on those at this point. Now I'm talking about Interscope, Atlantic, Warner. You're getting extremely recognizable collaborators. You're getting vocals from well-known singers. And if you play a show, you're headlining the bill. At festivals, maybe you're not closing the festival, but you're still at the top section. If you're playing a side stage, you're at one of the top slots. If you're on the main stage, you're playing a good time. Our student Nostalgics, she's at this level. She's played a lot of main stages. She gets good time slots, and she signs to the best dance music labels. She tours all over the world. She gets to work with great collaborators. And at this point, not only will you have an agent and a manager, but you'll have a full team. You've grinded for years and years and years on your own, and it's finally paying off. To give you an idea of how long this took our student Nostalgics, she joined our program over 6 years ago, and she was already DJing producing on her own for about 2-3 years before that. So you're talking about like 9 years of her grinding her ass off, and she's still going. So if you want to play the big stages, EDC and Ultra and Tomorrowland, this is what it takes. It's nonstop work. It's sitting in the studio for hours and hours and hours, and you're making tons of music because you're also signing tons of music. Nostalgics and other people at this level are getting great music signed to great labels all the time. So let's just talk in terms of metrics for people at this phase. On average, again, you have over 100,000 followers on pretty much every platform. You have hundreds of thousands or millions of monthly listeners on Spotify. You finish music consistently because, like I said, you're getting great music signed to great labels every month. So hey, phase 4 sounds great. What's the final phase? What's phase 5? Phase 5 is you are now the label boss. You are a brand icon, and you're not just headlining the festival, you're closing the festival. Skrillex, deadmau5, Above and Beyond, Hardwell, Tiesto. This takes 15, 20 years at a high level. And we're talking many iconic records, maybe even some Grammy wins at this point. And they're not just headlining the festivals, they are closing down the festivals. These are the folks closing Ultra, closing Coachella. Like Skrillex closed Coachella last year. Swedish House Mafia closed Coachella the year before that. That's the biggest festival, and they're closing it on the main stage. These people are the legends, and they have many iconic records. They don't just have like one hit. They're not one-hit wonders. We can all name 10 huge records from Skrillex or Deadmau5 or Swedish House Mafia. And all these folks, they're bigger than just a DJ producer at this point. These are massive brands. And a lot of them, they have their own labels, their own radio shows. Tiesto's label, Musical Freedom, is one of the biggest labels in dance music. Armin van Buuren, he has a State of Trance. It's one of the biggest radio shows. He also has Armada, one of the biggest labels. These folks are at the top. They get to collaborate with the biggest names in the world. They get vocalists like Rihanna or Ellie Goulding, or big name rappers like Pharrell or The Weeknd. And I just want to be clear, even if you have been doing this for 20 years, there's no guarantee you get to be these people. I mean, look, we've had people doing this 10, 15 years. We don't have anyone at this phase yet. I think we will though. And while I haven't taught anyone that's gotten to this phase, I booked shows for 10 years and I booked a lot of these folks. Zed, Axwell, Pharrell. And here's what I know from being around them. You have to work harder and longer than you can imagine. You have to have a great attitude, be a giver, be a positive person. You have to consistently grow and learn. One of the things David Guetta said to us, I'll never forget it. He goes, I have no ego. I'm always trying to get better. Is there luck involved in this? 1000%. There's luck involved in everything. But the amount that is required of you is almost hard to explain. But there are a few things in this area that you absolutely must do if you want to get ahead. I spent an entire video just dedicated to that. So I'm going to put that up here. I want you to watch that next. I'll see you in there.